Today's session is on the Automator and the Uploader, and then just a brief talk about zone editing, which we titled it Remediation. If you're familiar with all those tools and you do that on a daily and weekly basis, maybe you'll learn something new. Stick around. I'm going to go over it briefly, and I'm going to start by explaining what the Automator and Uploader are. They are small programs that you can install from the Kurzweil website that allow you to do batch conversions. Primarily, you'd use it for PDFs. That means that when you open up a PDF and you know how it does the OCR process and you have to wait, a question I would always get when I was a sales rep was, Corey, do we have to do this one by one? And the answer is no. That's when it's a good time to introduce somebody to the Automator. You can throw as many PDFs as you want into a specific folder. When you activate the Automator, that little program, it will continue to just digest those PDFs, perform the OCR process, and put them in a folder of your choosing, all as KESI files. Simple little program. And then from there is where you might want to take advantage of the Uploader, which is you batch upload all those KESI files for distribution into your universal library. And from there, after the one-step process of uploading all those files, you can then distribute those to students specifically to their folders, or maybe on your campus you have a Dropbox or some cloud storage that you can then move those to. So the first most important part is, how do I get access to the Automator and the Uploader and the instructions on how to do this? So I have the links here, but what I thought I would show you, I'm going up to my new tab here and I'm going to the Kurzweil webpage. And this is kind of to show off we have a new webpage as well. I'm going to go to Products, and then one of the options is Downloads. And then I see all the Kurzweil version 22, and I got to keep scrolling all the way to the bottom, labeled Other Tools. It's not labeled Automator Upload. So I click Other Tools for version 22. This is where I will find Read the Web, Firefox, Read the Web for Edge, and then I will go down and see there's the Kurzweil Automator, a simple little install, very brief, does not take long at all. And here is the upload utility right here. Very good. So once you install it, it'll go to your downloads folder. And what I did here is, you see there's a whole folder on my desktop called the Automator and one called the Uploader. When you're installing it, just instead of choosing to install it to your downloads folder, and choose a spot on your computer that you want to install it. It'll install a folder with all of the tools within it. And this is kind of I'm explaining it at this length because if you have never used these tools before, it can be one way to help your students have quicker access to their textbooks if you do nothing more than put them into their universal library already converted as KESI files. This way, it won't take quite as much of your time. When I've went on to certain campuses, they have assigned all these different student workers, and all they're doing is using the Automator and the Uploader. And before they upload, they're doing the zone editing so that the file reads as cleanly as possible. And I'll be showing at the end here your rep, because I'm going to go over this quickly enough that you'll go, what was that? What was that? And then you're going to be trying to memorize all this, and the instructions are all available to you without having to try to go back through this video. So here's another, so using our web page to get to the installation, and then the support for these are under, I'm up at the top of the Kurzweil web page saying support, and then I'm going down to technical support. Technical support has this customer support portal, which is a link within the page, and I'm clicking that. And these are our knowledge base articles. So our tech support has written in detailed instructions how to install and how to use these tools. So if I just search for, now I'm in the search box, just writing Automator and searching, and then you'll see there's Automator information and troubleshooting, and then universal library information and troubleshooting. When I click on that, you'll see there are Once, why would I want to use it? And here's exactly how to go through the install process. Now I'm going to do a quick example of how this works. So I want to show you, I'm going to click my Automator, the folder, and you'll see there's several files in there. One of them is a very helpful help file as well, but the Automator is the application. And I am going to double click that, and it pulls up this little program here. And I'm going to go over this too, because this is where you've got to get involved, because it's a small program written by our engineers years ago. You'll notice on my desktop, besides the Automator and the Uploader folders, I have a folder that's called Source, and I have a folder that's called Destination. So the first thing the Automator is going to ask you is, tell me where the source hierarchy is. Where's the folder? So when you first open yours, it'll be blank. You go to Browse, and then you go and you find your source folder right there. And you can see I've already got that labeled. Then I have to go into my destination folder, and I have to map where the Automator is to find my destination folder, which is right here on my desktop. I browse, I find it, and I never have to do that again. Here's kind of a little bit of a tricky one. It's not tricky, but it's something that'd be easy to forget. Make sure you know where to find those instructions. The Kurzweil Automator says we need a log file. So within my Automator folder, I made a log file. All I did was right click, I go to new text document, and then I named it log file. So if you start running this and you get an error, it might be because there's no log file for the Automator to log the activity. And I'll show you how that works. Then I map that where to find that log file. And at this point, there's some command arguments in this command line. You don't touch that. Those come auto-generated. So now this little program is ready to work. Once I click OK, one more important part here. Sorry about that. You see it gave me an error message. I have to put in my username and my password. Okay. Because your username and the password, even if you have single sign-on on your campus, you as an administrator of the account, you have a username and a password. So I am going to put that in there. I'm going to cancel out again so I can show you this again. And here's what I'm going to do. Now, anything in my source folder, the Automator is going to search that source folder for any new PDFs. So and you can name the source folder any name you want. When you map it, you just find that specific source folder that you want. Any PDFs that Kurzweil's Automator has already remediated, it won't do it again. It will only look for new documents. So I've got a little test here. It's called biotest. So it's some human biology pages. And you notice it's in a folder. It says biotest. I am just going to throw that into my source document. I'm going to open up my Automator, and I'm going to hit OK. If there's no new files in there, it'll say waiting for work. I got to put my
password.
Yep. So, and then Kurzweil's working on another page here, so I'll try bring that over for you in just a moment. So what Kurzweil's doing is it opens up Kurzweil and it starts remediating these pages. So one of the workflows that people use is they have a semester's worth, or they have somebody's entire course load that they have to remediate. So instead of doing this one at a time, you throw it in the Automator, you click go, and you can kind of go off and do other activities that your job requires. What I've recommended and what some campuses do is they will have a workstation for the automating, because there's no reason to sit and watch that. Kurzweil does that in the background. So what happened now is Kurzweil put that folder right here is the exact folder that I threw into the Automator. It put it in the destination folder with the exact folder hierarchy. So if you wanted to say this is biology, chapter 1, it would follow that exact same path. At that point, after I've done all of my remediation, I can go to my uploader tool, and now I can batch upload. You can see all these files. There's one application, and I have to put in my username and my password. I log in, and I have to browse. Where is my destination folder? So in fact, I'm going to browse for folders, because I'm going to take a whole folder and put it up in my universal library. So I'm going to go find my destination folder. See that right there. And here's the folder that I recently had remediated. I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to ask me, where do you want to put that? And now this hopefully looks familiar. This is my universal library in Kurzweil. And I'll put that up in my private folder for now. And I'll hit OK and tell it to upload. And it just gave me a warning sign that says one file will be uploaded to the universal library. And then it starts the upload process. Again, if you're using this for batch uploading, you could have an entire folder with hundreds and hundreds of documents, Kurzweil files ready to be uploaded. For demo purposes, just doing one folder. I had logged into Kurzweil here, or into Kurzweil3000.com to show that.
Corey, Lee has a question real quick. Lee, go ahead.
With the Automator, I have had to uncheck the box that says log activity, because every time that is checked, once it completes a file and moves to the next one, keeps asking me for my username and password again.
Oh, does it? I was hoping there'd be people that regularly use these tools, because we need to hear about some of the, it can either save you a lot of work or you will abandon it if it never works. That's like a student in their text. If they've got to do all the work with it, they're not coming back to you and you wonder where they went. So, okay, well, that's good. So first, let me show you this. So I uploaded it and here it is. That's the folder in the file that I had remediated, and it's now a KESI file uploaded. From here, I can distribute it, move it, or copy it to different students. With the Automator, there is a checkbox where I talked at length about creating a log file. And so Lee said he undoes that, and then I'm just going to grab one and hit OK. And good, it shows you here, you don't want Kurzweil running in the background, right? You got your username and your background. So Kurzweil is closed out. The Automator opens it up. It is now, it's automating anything I put in there that was new. So now it's working. And as soon as it's done, it closed it. I said, don't log activity. It still did an activity log right within the program. So that's important to note. There's a couple different new things in there. So it opens up Kurzweil, performs the automation, and it's completing it, putting it into the destination folder as separate files. So it opens up, finishes automating it, OCRing it, closes, opens up, and does that. So that's why setting it off and running and going on and doing other things, that's the usefulness of the Automator. Okay, I'm going to cancel that out. Okay, so there we go. And then it will log your activity for you. So the concept I wanted to get across to you is quickly doing Kurzweil conversions rather than opening up one, converting it. Or this might be a pathway for you to make the student's life a little bit easier, because if you don't have people to do this for you, you're not going to do a lot of automating and zone editing, meaning student workers. One thing that I've definitely noticed is the more prepared a file is, with anything, the student's more likely to keep engaging in the solution. This is a way for you to do a lot of work at once. I'm going to open up Kurzweil again, and I'm going to move over to some zone editing. Again, if you've done zone editing and you know that process, that workflow, this isn't going to be anything new for you. This is going to be me showing you how you can remediate a Kurzweil file so that it reads in a way that the student is going to continue to engage with. So I am going to grab a Kurzweil file here that I have not zone edited. And I wanted to pick one that was a little complicated, had a graph in here, just 2 pages. And I want to show you how zone editing works. I've opened the file. I've went over to the Read tab next to Kurzweil 3000 tab. And then I'm going to go over a couple tabs to the Scan tab. Right underneath the Scan tab are some tools. And as I go to the end, you'll see there's a zone editor, edit underlying text, header and footer. When I worked with community colleges in particular that didn't have a large disability staff, but they wanted to prepare the document as best as they could within their personnel capabilities, meaning they didn't have a lot of people to do this, but they wanted the text to be more approachable by the student once they put it into the universal library. There's a couple things that I recommended that they do in terms of zone editing so the text was easier for them to read. For instance, if you upload a PDF, chapter 3, and it starts at page 47, the first page Kurzweil remediates in OCRs, it's going to call it page 1. What's nice to be able to do for the student is rename those pages so they match the syllabus. Let's say I've just uploaded a page here. I'm going up to the top menu and I'm going to choose View. I'm going to choose Page. And then I'm going all the way down to Set Number. Very simple dialog box comes up. It says number of first page, and then I'm going to name that the first page that matches with the student syllabus. In this case, I'm going to make up 47. It says OK, and you can see now the numbers changed to 47 and 48, even though very clearly the document I chose says page 28. But if you've done a whole book for a student, which Kurzweil can do, the entire book, but the book has 15 or 40 pages of front matter, meaning Roman numerals that are giving credits and telling you about the author. You can also go to View, Page, and go to Set Number, and it says Document has front matter. So what that does is you click that little box, and then you just tell Kurzweil how many pages of that textbook are front matter, the Roman numerals. And that way, all the pages in that textbook will align with what the students read a certain chapter, the pages will align. Another tool that Kurzweil has to allow you to do batch zone editing. So you only do it once and it does it for all the pages, is the header and the footer. These, the page number and then Unit 1, Human Organization, that's going to be the same place in all the document. When I go to the next page, as often happens, it's on the exact opposite side. I want to tell Kurzweil, don't read that at every page. So when a student switches pages, it will skip over that, go right to the content. I can click the header and footer tool. I right click and it says mark header and footer. It gives me a crosshairs. I just draw over that what I don't want it to read. And I double clicked it. I right click, whoops, and apply to all pages. And then you'll see I turn the page. Oh, and there it's not covering anything, but I want to go here now, mark the header and footer, double click, double click, and then apply to all pages. So now if there were 100 more pages, it's taking out that header and footer. I don't have to do it to every single page. And then I wanted to show you if you're not aware, what does it mean to zone edit a page? There are colleges that will go through each and every single page of a document to make sure that it reads correctly. That's a lot of work. You'd need a lot of person power, student workers to do that. But this is what it looks like. So I'm going to hit the zone editor. First, I got to get out of the header and footer tool, hit the zone editor, and then you'll see all of the blocks of text are assigned a number. That is the reading order, and those are called the zones. So in a page like this, you can look through and say, okay, here's the reading order. It's going to skip over that header, and it's going to read acid, bases, and then it's going to skip to this. And you can get a feel for if it's going to read in the correct order. Now, maybe at your campus, that's the most you can do. You can just go through the text and find any really egregious misplacement of how it's going to read, and you'll fix that in a document. That's already helping a student out quite a bit. Now I'm just going to show you. You see this spot right here. There's part of the graphic is not, it doesn't have any box around it. That means Kurzweil didn't recognize it. So maybe you want to, for visually impaired students, assign that and explain what it is. So you can do that within Kurzweil. I just right-clicked on the page, and I'm going to add a zone. See how I just got the crosshairs? And now I've got a zone there. I'm going to click that, and it gives me what it assigned as the reading order, which I can go in and adjust. I'm going to right-click and hit Properties. I'll bring this box over. And then it's going to tell me zone type, primary text, means Kurzweil automatically reads it. In this case, I want to override the OCR. That means in that little box, I'm going to type exactly in there what I want that to say. So maybe in here, you describe the picture. And then when I hit play,
describe the picture.
I don't know, could you hear that? So you assign the zone, you can describe what you want it to tell the student what this is. Obviously, when you get to more complicated text, there's a lot of that to do if the publisher hasn't done it. Now, this is something, if you're familiar with Kurzweil and you go to the next page, do you remember Kurzweil always used to say, do you want to resave this page? And then you got to click and resave the page. You got to do a lot of clicking. Recently, we changed that so that if you say, here's a little box that says warn before accepting changes, I have that unclicked. So it has saved my changes. I can now just jump to the next page, and it doesn't ask me to click and okay it and re-recognize the page. It just goes to the next page. It saved the changes. So that's an engineering change that we recently made, because on the listserv, we noticed people were really complaining about it because it's a lot. It's already a lot of work to zone edit it, to have to do all that extra clicking. So that's been nice. So
show how you got that window up one more time, please.
Show how I got the, okay. So when I click zone editing and it shows me all the zones, when I click over this zone, I just clicked it. And so now I've chosen it. And if I right click, it'll give me these options. Properties gives me even more options.
Thank you.
Another way people use this is if I have several zones that I don't want read aloud, I am hitting Control, click, click. I'm choosing these zones, and now I'm choosing the properties, and I'm making those all secondary text. Secondary text says Kurzweil skips over, it doesn't read it. And I did that again by choosing a bunch of zones at once by clicking, hitting Control, click, 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 just like you would on a Windows, choosing a bunch of files at once. I want to go to the next page. It saved all those changes. Zone editing, I don't close it to go to each new page. I just click it like that. One other tool that I wanted to show you is the edit the underlying text. So it's right up here on that main ribbon. I click edit underlying text. And what's happening here is it takes all the text that's underneath that image, and it puts it down here. Selected word at the bottom says chapter. So if I go up here and click, it'll take me right to that word. I wanted to show you edit underlying text because you will run, for instance, a medical document or a medical text, and a very important word is mispronounced throughout the entire textbook. I'm sure that has happened in the past. This is a little hack that allows you to change that throughout the whole textbook. I find that word, in this case, I found cholesterol, and let's say I wanted to change that to a correct pronunciation. So I phonetically spell it until it pronounces it the way that I know is correct. So I am just going to make up, if your cholesterol's high, you probably got to take a statin. So I just changed that to statin, but imagine I'm changing it to the pronunciation that is correct. It doesn't obviously change it in the image, it changes it in the underlying text. Did you see that? So once I know that is pronouncing correctly, I'm going to copy that word, the correct phonetic spelling, because I know it's mispronounced 1,000 times throughout that text. And I'm going to exit out of the edit the underlying text. I could go right up here and, yep, I want to save that. Now here's the hack. I'm going to hit Control F and I'm going to find that word throughout this entire document. And I'm going to put that, I just pasted the correct pronunciation in there. And there's a little tool here. It says advanced. And let me bring that over so you can see it. And I am going to replace, I'm going to find the incorrect pronunciation. I'm going to correct it with the correct pronunciation. And then I'm just going to replace all, and it'll go throughout the entire document, replacing the poor pronunciation with the correct pronunciation.
And that's actually say find cholesterol, replace it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you find the mispronounce and you replace it with the correct, and it'll go through that entire image document, replacing the underlying text with the correct pronunciation. That's especially helpful if maybe there's a symbol that is always pronounced with a gibberish word. Now, I know this is your first introduction. You're not going to retain all of this information. My goal is that you would begin to say, hey, this is something that would be helpful.
So we didn't talk real quick about bookmarks or chapters. So, or if you recall, many times we see many pages for one big download, and it's multiple chapters. If you have Adobe Pro, Corey says make your separate chapters and load it into your universal library as otherwise. If you do not, I would use the view source either on Kurzweil 3000 your desktop or on Kurzweil3000.com, and you find the chapter 1, you make that a bookmark. You find chapter 2, you make that chapter 2, and you use the bookmarks similar to what EPUB does naturally. That navigation is one and done for the student, one and done for you, as well as if they use the phone to hear that chapter. Quick way to find that on a live stream versus going page to page to page.
Yeah, just right here, if you hit the bookmark at the beginning of a chapter, you can now say, you can start building bookmarks throughout the entire document. It's another way of assigning the pages and quickly going to different pages using the bookmark feature.
I'm going to go ahead and close off this recording, but if we have other comments, please carry on.